Welcome. I am Todd Raffel with ERE Media. Our website is ere.net. We are a .net.com, not .com, but a .net, ere.net. In case you find this video embedded somewhere else, that's where to find us. And I'm here with Chris Forman. Chris Forman is the CEO and founder of a company called Appcast. They are not at .com or a .net, but at .io, appcast.io. Chris Forman. Chris had written an interesting article for our website at ere.net about the rate that people finish job applications on career sites and how those rates are lower when people are using a mobile device than if they're at those old-time computers people used to have where they type on like a laptop or desktop. Those applications are more likely to get finished. We're not talking just about that today, but we're talking about something new that he found, and that is the difference between people who finish or don't finish applications when using an iPhone versus an Android. What'd you find?
So, Todd, thanks for having me on. What we found was that folks that use Android mobile devices actually apply to jobs at a rate close to 2.25 times more than folks that use an iPhone. The reason behind this is a little unclear. We have some hypotheses around it, but fundamentally, the data doesn't lie. We looked at about 500,000 applications across 16 different industries, scores and scores of companies, and every major applicant tracking system. So the data itself is fairly normalized, and again, Android phone users apply at a significantly higher rate than folks that use an iPhone.
So I could guess at some of your guesses, because you said there were hypotheses. I could guess what some of those are. Perhaps one is, and I've got this Droid Max, it's called. By the way, if you look at the amount of radiation given off by phones, this is number one, so something to be proud of. Hopefully you won't get it through the Skype here. Just me will be sizzling as we speak. But so maybe one guess of yours could have been that somehow we're more clever than other people, or there's something different about the user. I mean, I'm joking, but something different about an Android user that makes them finish and the others not. Or maybe is it possible that the application is somehow more optimized or more easier or better or something like that on the Android versus the iPhone, or is that not it? Were those some of your guesses at least?
Yeah, I mean, there's some technical, there are a few technical things that I think explains a good chunk of this. The first one is that the default browser that is used on an Android phone is Chrome. Chrome, when compared to other browsers, even in a desktop environment, has about a 20% higher click-to-apply rate than you find with IE or with Safari. Safari happens to be the default browser that you find on an iPhone. So why is that? I don't know. The thing that throws me for a loop is the Safari piece of that fact. If I saw data that said Chrome has a higher click-to-apply rate than IE, I could understand it. IE is notorious in the software development community for having difficulties across different browser configurations against different pieces of software. So you could see that there would be, some incompatibility issues on different applicant tracking systems. But the fact that you see Safari and Firefox so far below Chrome is interesting. Software developers love Chrome. It tends to perform very well on a lot of different platforms and is very forgiving. So I think that that's one thing that just may be, kind of a platform difference.
Okay.
The other, kind of difference is that on iOS devices, you can't store a document. So like, have you ever tried to store your actual resume on your iPhone? You can't. With an Android device, well, it's hard. You can actually do it. You can save a document onto an Android device. So if you think about an online application process, if you go to an applicant tracking system and you need to submit your resume, if the options are upload your resume or copy and paste, the only option available to an iPhone user is copy and paste, which on a small 2-inch by 3-inch screen is a complete pain in the butt. And so, that's that's a challenge. In essence, when we find applicant tracking system flows that don't have a third-party upload capability, i.e. upload from Dropbox, upload from Google, upload from LinkedIn, you have approaching 0% apply rates on an iOS device.
Yeah, I can't imagine saying I want to save a document, a resume on my phone, like a Word type format to send later. Yeah, that would make someone crazy. I mean, they're not crazy. That would make them go crazy.
Exactly.
Because it seems like a hassle. So we don't really know the end. The bottom line is we don't know why, but Droid is much higher than iPhone. Going back to what we talked about at the outset, people not finishing job applications on mobile phones, but they finish them much more often on a computer. I imagine there could be at least a couple reasons for that. One is it's, of course, more of a hassle on the phone. They're not optimized and whatnot. Another could be just the behavior. I mean, you're in line at Starbucks, you're like on your phone, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Appcast, cool job. I'm going to work at Appcast, blah, blah, I'm going to start doing it. And then they're like, hey, Todd, your frappy latte thing is ready, blah, blah. And then you just kind of like stick your phone in your pocket and life goes on. That's just the nature of being on a mobile, by definition, phone. So I would imagine those are at least a couple reasons why mobile could be lower, maybe?
Yeah, no, I mean, the primary reason why you see a huge drop-off between desktop apply rates and mobile apply rates, first off, has to do with some very basic system compatibility issues with some applicant tracking systems. Some ATSs still today, you can't apply on a mobile phone. Like you need to do an e-signature, you need to upload a resume, you just can't do it. But beyond that, the biggest issue is that we've, in essence, paved the goat path. Rather than thinking about a mobile recruitment engagement as a bespoke, specific, area of development that needs its own individualized thinking compared to an application process on a desktop, we've lifted and shifted the application process from a desktop onto the mobile phone. And so, a lot of companies, especially that use some of the large enterprise applicant tracking systems.
Who we won't name, but we got it, yeah.
Large enterprise applicant tracking systems have to answer 50 to 80, sometimes well over 100 fields of data. And, that's absurd on a 2-inch by 3-inch phone. I mean, even if it worked flawlessly from a technical standpoint, to your point about the latte, that's not how you engage with a mobile device.
Right.
Mobile device, engagement is, 30 seconds, a minute at tops. You're checking something, you're doing a status update, you're taking a picture. And so, interestingly, when I give talks about this a lot all over the country, and I think I tick some people off in the audience because what they want me to say is this is a technical problem, that it's the software. It's not. It's the business process decisions that we as recruiting professionals and leaders make. We can decide tomorrow to have, this is like vanilla level technology. You click as a job seeker onto a job ad. When you click on it, you have the ability to sniff whether or not it's a mobile device or a desktop device. If it's a mobile device, you take them to an application process that asks them first name, last name, email address, mobile number, LinkedIn, profile, Indeed resume, Monster resume, upload from Dropbox, get the resume, and 2 knockout questions. You don't need their entire history of where they've worked at 5 different companies with start dates and end dates, each of which requires 7 pieces of data.
Yeah.
You don't need to ask for their next of kin.
Yeah.
You don't need it. You need enough to be able to do an initial screen to understand who you want to talk to. And once you decide who you want to talk to, then you can ask them to come back and fill out the big form.
I don't know. I saw this morning.
Issue. That's not technology.
I saw this morning some UK company that's asking people something like, "Are you normal or are you weird?" So I think every company has to ask that. Are you normal or are you weird? That should be a federal requirement. Anyhow, Chris, this has been interesting, useful. Last question on the interesting and useful. What do you do with this? You got more people finishing from the Droids. do we now just say only Droid people are going to be targeted for ad campaigns? No, I'm joking, but like, what do you do with this information? We're not going to go, companies aren't going to go say, okay, we're Home Depot, we want to go find Droid users to work at Home Depot. That's not really good. But what is the answer? What can you do? And then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, so the answer really has, this is intellectual, beer nuts, this type of data. The take-home idea here, though, is to look at the idea of a low click-to-apply rate in mobile and use that to build a business case for change. So last year, Indeed did about $450 million in revenue, okay? They are, by, I think all objective standards, the largest job aggregator in the United States right now. Every single one of their job ads is paid for on a cost per click basis. If you have a 10% click to apply ratio, which means it takes 10 clicks for somebody to apply, and you're paying $1 per click, your cost per applicant is $10. If, in fact, you have a 1% click to apply ratio, which you have on an Apple iOS device, or 2%, your cost per application is $50 or $100.
So it goes back to what you've been talking about. It's reduce the time, reduce the hassle, reduce the clicks, rethink the way you're asking people questions, rethink your whole strategy, and think about a phone and how someone's using the phone, what they want to do with the phone, instead of replicating what you were doing on your Smith Corona onto your phone.
And that's right, but the delta is that 5 years ago, when the vast majority of recruitment media was bought on a duration-based job ad unit, a job posting, you were going to spend X amount of dollars on a job posting. It was going to stay up for 30 days. It is what it is. At that point in time, the amount of mobile traffic that you're getting from a job board was in between 10 and 20%, maybe even lower. Today, it's half the traffic you get from a job site. And if you're paying for every click, a mobile click that you pay for is significantly less valuable than a desktop click, unless you rethink your apply process. And so literally, there are organizations that have said, 10% click to apply rate on my desktop traffic, 1% on mobile. I'm spending $100,000 a year on job ads. I'm flushing 50 grand.
Yeah.
If I go spend that $50,000 now on technology and a business process rewrite so that I can get that 1% mobile click to apply rate up to 5% or 6 or 7%, or do what happens in the trucking industry, catch this. The trucking industry has a better click-to-apply rate on mobile devices than it does on desktop devices. You can pay for that entire technology business process reorg by savings in your sourcing budget.
That's not very reassuring when I'm the one next to that truck who's applying for the job and I'm trying to drive safely on the road.
It's true, but the thing about trucking is it's, all jokes aside about texting and driving, there are three things that have led to trucking leading the industry in terms of click-to-apply rates on mobile. First off is that, clearly truck drivers are mobile enabled.
Yeah.
Everybody gets that. Second one is that there's a huge supply and demand mismatch. Huge demand for truck drivers, incredibly low supply. So what that means is that organizations are investing to try and get whoever they possibly can, and that means making their mobile better. But even more than financial services, even more than per diem nursing, even more than sales, truck drivers represent revenue. Okay, every truck driver represents $250,000 in revenue to the trucking company every year. And so this is a CEO level issue. And in fact, if you take a look at the trucking companies that are out there, who runs their marketing operation? It's not recruiting, it's their marketing departments. It's the people that are selling toasters and airline tickets and cars on the web all day long. They just happen to be in the trucking business, but their job is to recruit truckers because that is revenue. And so they've rethought the entire process, built it up from the ground up to be a mobile process.
Eventually, when we have this conversation in 20 years, they'll have rethought it so much the trucks will be automated, driverless, and that's how they'll probably solve the problem. But that's a conversation for another day.
It is.
Chris Forman from Appcast, thank you so much for what you called your intellectual beer nuts. It's been very interesting and useful, thought-provoking, and valuable. Chris Forman from Appcast, thank you.
Thanks very much, Todd.